Before Blood Demon Mountain, a thick, pungent scent of blood filled the air. 3 blood shadows stood in the sky, their overwhelming and brutal auras emanating from them. From a distance, they resembled 3 demon gods. Behind them, many powerful native inhabitants trembled in fear, unable to hide the terror in their eyes. They knew all too well that these 3 blood shadows were the most formidable blood demon kings of the Blood Fiend clan. Over the years, countless top-tier experts among the native inhabitants had fallen at their hands. As the 3 blood demon kings' fearsome presence struck terror into the crowd, Mu Chen's sleeve fluttered slightly. Spirit light surged like a rising tide, covering half the sky, and instantly neutralizing the menacing pressure from the 3 blood demon kings. With Mu Chen taking action, Bai Susu and the others quietly exhaled, their tense bodies relaxing. They cast awed gazes at the slender figure ahead of them. Above Blood Demon Mountain, the leader of the 3 blood demon kings, his gaze cold, fixed on Mu Chen and spoke slowly. A mere perfect Earth Supreme dares to show off in front of this king? Truly unaware of the vastness of heaven and earth. From the fluctuation of Mu Chen's spiritual energy, the great blood demon king clearly recognized his strength. This made him slightly uneasy. After all, ordinary perfect Earth Supremes were on par with their blood demon generals. But if that were all, how could the 3 blood demon kings have been defeated by Mu Chen? Hearing the great blood demon king's mockery, Mu Chen simply smiled and said, "A perfect Earth Supreme is more than enough to deal with you. Arrogant fool." The other 2 blood demon kings, standing by the great blood demon king, growled menacingly. Their eyes were like sharp blades, glaring fiercely at Mu Chen, their faces contorted with savagery. "Big brother, why waste time with this dying fool? Let's attack together, kill him first, then throw these blood thralls into the blood abyss." Their vicious eyes scanned the many native inhabitants behind them, sneering. "Let's take him down together then." The great blood demon king nodded indifferently. While he mocked Mu Chen's strength, he remained cautious, not giving Mu Chen a chance to defeat them one by one. The moment they acted, it was with all 3. Boom. 3 immense beams of blood-red light erupted from the 3 blood demon kings, shaking the very heavens. The roaring winds of blood filled the air, and the stench of decay was overwhelming. The combined attack of the 3 blood demon kings was earth-shattering, and even Bai Susu's face changed slightly. She gripped her hands tightly. Over the past few days, she had come to understand Mu Chen's immense power. But until now, he had always fought one-on-one. Now he had to face the full force of the 3 most powerful blood demon kings. Whoosh! The 3 blood demon kings wasted no words and immediately attacked. 3 massive blood-red torrents surged through the void, resembling filthy rivers of blood, rushing toward Mu Chen. Mu Chen raised his sleeve, and a protective spiritual energy shield emerged, enveloping him. Boom! The blood rivers collided violently with the spiritual shield, splashing blood in all directions. The terrifying force seemed as though it could tear the sky apart. Seeing this, the 3 blood demon kings all grinned savagely. Though their initial strike seemed casual, they had held nothing back. The demon blood river was incredibly filthy, and even a slight touch could erode spiritual energy. However, their grins froze as they witnessed something unexpected. Suddenly, a burst of crystal light erupted, and wherever the light spread, the blood-red rivers quickly faded and collapsed. The 3 blood demon kings' pupils contracted slightly. At the spot where Mu Chen had been standing, a light membrane of crystal light formed, protecting him. At the same time, the space around him twisted, and 2 black and white figures suddenly appeared, standing on either side of Mu Chen. The 2 figures, one in black and the other in white, looked exactly like Mu Chen. What shook the 3 blood demon kings even more was that these 2 figures also emitted the same powerful spiritual energy as Mu Chen. Is this a spiritual energy clone? How could it be as strong as the original? One of the blood demon kings exclaimed in shock, clearly familiar with the methods of the Great Thousand Worlds. The pale-faced great blood demon king's eyes darkened as he muttered, "So that's why this kid dared to come to Blood Demon Mountain. No wonder he's got some real skills. Big brother, what should we do?" Another blood demon king asked in a deep voice. With this, wouldn't their numerical advantage be completely lost? The great blood demon king's expression darkened, his eyes flashing. After a moment, he sneered. I don't believe this guy's clones can possess the exact same combat power as his true body. Leave his true body to me. You two take care of his clones and surround him. Understood. The two blood demon kings nodded in agreement, sharing the same belief. After all, such an ability to split into three without diminishing combat strength was extremely rare, even within their extraterritorial evil clan. How could a mere Earth Supreme at great perfection level possibly master such a technique? With a flash of movement, both blood demon kings shot out as beams of blood light. At this moment, Chen looked up, observing the scene. He smiled faintly and nodded at the black and white Chen. The black and white Chen laughed loudly, rising into the sky before heading off in two different directions, allowing the two blood demon kings to follow closely behind. A moment later, the black-robed Chen took action first. He flicked his finger, and a ring on his hand gleamed with light. In the next instant, countless figures shot out from within, standing behind him. Boom! The overwhelming battle intent surged into the sky, shaking the heavens and earth. Thousands of soldiers appeared behind the black-robed Chen, their war cries echoing across the world. The vast battle intent turned into an ocean, surging in the sky, contracting and expanding, showing terrifying power. This army, of course, was the Mystic Dragon Army. Amidst the army, the black-robed Chen sat cross-legged within the sea of battle intent. He glanced at the Blood Demon King, who was in shock, and gave a faint smile. With a wave of his sleeve, the torrent of battle intent roared out, carrying immense power, sweeping toward the Blood Demon King. On the other side, the white-robed Chen sent countless spiritual seals flying from his sleeves, like a sky full of stars. These spiritual seals fused in the void, and numerous beams of spiritual light shot out. In the blink of an eye, a massive spiritual array formed, enveloping the Blood Demon King who had been chasing from behind. In the distance, Susu and many of the native inhabitants watched in shock. They had not expected that Chen still hid such powerful techniques. With just two clones, he had trapped the two Blood Demon Kings. Battle Formation Master? Spiritual Array Master? Amidst their shock, the great Blood Demon King also looked grimly at the scene. It was only then that he had to admit that Chen's two clones truly possessed combat strength equal to that of his true body. You evildoers in this realm shall pay with blood for your deeds, Chen said coldly, looking at the great Blood Demon King. You have quite a mouth on you. Once I slay your true body, these two clones will naturally collapse. The great Blood Demon King sneered, bloodlight swirling in his eyes. He then opened his mouth wide, and a vast blood river poured out, quickly transforming into a vast sea of blood, suspended in the sky. Roar! The blood sea churned, and suddenly a furious roar echoed from within. The sea of blood was torn apart, and a colossal beast, tens of thousands of feet tall, crawled out from the depths of the blood sea. This beast was blood-red all over, exuding an overwhelming malevolent aura. It resembled a giant ape but had 3 heads, its face twisted and vicious, like a hellish beast. Roar! The blood-red beast let out a roar, filled with destructive fury. Its blood-red eyes locked onto Chen. It opened its massive jaws, and a blood-red sphere, tens of thousands of feet in size, gathered within. With a loud boom, it exploded, tearing apart space and leaving a dark streak in the sky as it shot directly at Chen. Chen's eyes narrowed slightly as he watched the scene. From the blood-red beast, he could sense dangerous fluctuations, making him more cautious. The great Blood Demon King's strength was now among the most formidable opponents he had faced, nearly comparable to those who reached the Heavenly Supreme level. Taking a deep breath, Chen made hand seals, and a burst of purple-golden light erupted behind him, forming into a giant purple-gold figure. Swish, swish, swish. The eternal golden body materialized, producing hundreds of immortal divine runes. These runes shot out like dragons, quickly gathering in front of him to form an enormous purple-gold net. Bang! The blood-red sphere, imbued with destructive force, roared toward him, collapsing the space around it. It slammed into the purple-gold net with a tremendous crash. The terrifying power directly compressed the massive net, while the blood-red sphere of light continued to surge forward, charging straight toward Mu Chen. However, Mu Chen's figure remained completely still, his expression indifferent as he watched the destruction sphere rapidly expand in his pupils. Just as Bai Susu and the others, who were watching from a distance, tensed up and were about to shout, the sphere of light was finally neutralized by the purple-gold net, just a few feet from Mu Chen. The blood-red sphere, now entangled in the giant net, appeared to be suspended in front of Mu Chen. Slowly, Mu Chen raised his finger and gently flicked it. Buzz! The purple-gold net suddenly shook violently and contracted sharply. The blood-red sphere, now sent hurtling backward along the same path, was soon rocketed back, and in the blink of an eye, it smashed directly into the blood-red giant beast. Roar! The blood-red giant beast roared to the sky, and with a powerful grip of its massive paw, it pulled a blood-red giant staff from the blood sea, about 1,000 feet long. It swung the staff down with tremendous force, shattering the space. The blood-red sphere, blasted back at high speed, exploded violently under the impact of the staff. A terrifying storm of force swept through the air, and the heavens themselves trembled with thunder and lightning, as if facing imminent destruction. Humph, not bad. The great blood demon king sneered as he saw Mu Chen block the attack, his eyes filled with a deeper crimson glow. He then grinned savagely and said, "Now, let me show you just how terrifying my Blood Fiend clan's annihilation blood beast truly is." Roar! No sooner had the great blood demon king's voice fallen, the blood-red giant beast let out a high-pitched shriek. Visible sound waves spread out in all directions as it held the blood-red giant staff. With a single step, it shattered the sky and transformed into a streak of blood-red light, charging straight at Mu Chen's immortal golden body. The annihilative malice seemed to want to exterminate all life in the world. Mu Chen watched the beast, filled with destructive power, charging toward him, his expression grave. His hands suddenly formed seals, and the immortal golden body beneath him erupted with a brilliant purple-gold radiance. Immortal divine runes appeared on the immortal golden body's hands, transforming into 1,000-foot-long golden spear. The golden spear, held firmly in his hands, gleamed like a scorching sun. With a flash, Mu Chen's figure shot forward, and in the midst of countless shocked gazes, he collided with the blood-red giant beast like a meteor, the impact brutal and unstoppable. At the same time, Mu Chen's mocking voice rang out, as if thunder itself, echoing across the skies. "Today, I shall see whether your blood beast is stronger, or my immortal golden body." Boom! In the sky, the collision between the immortal golden body and the blood-red giant beast was violent and fierce, like the impact of meteors, causing a deafening roar that shook the heavens. Visible shockwaves spread like a storm, ripping through the space around them. The ground beneath trembled with force. Roar! The blood-red giant beast let out an ear-splitting roar, swinging its massive blood-red staff with a flash of blood light, hurling it toward the immortal golden body. Clang! However, a golden spear flashing with purple-gold light pierced through the space, and with a ringing clash of metal, it sent the fiery red giant staff flying backward. But the blood-red giant beast was incredibly vicious. Without hesitation, it charged forward again, swinging its staff with countless afterimages, unleashing a torrent of strikes that rained down upon the immortal golden body. The staff's shadows seemed capable of destroying the heavens, its momentum overwhelming. The immortal golden body, surrounded by a blinding golden light, brandished the purple-gold spear, meeting the incoming strikes head-on. The two weapons collided with such force that the entire world seemed to tremble in response. Mu Chen glanced at the two colossal creatures locked in combat, his gaze flickering. Without warning, his figure shot out, heading straight for the great blood demon king. The blood beast was certainly formidable, and dealing with it would require significant effort. But, as they say, capture the king to catch the thief. Once the great blood demon king was defeated, the blood beast would naturally collapse. Seeing Mu Chen heading straight for him, the great blood demon king couldn't help but sneer. "Without your clones, without your supreme Dharmakaya, do you dare face me with just your true body? You truly seek death." After losing those abilities, Mu Chen now appeared as just an Earth Supreme at great perfection. The great Blood Demon King's strength far surpassed that of an ordinary Blood Demon King, and he was just a step away from the Blood Demon Emperor's realm. Naturally, he wasn't afraid of Mu Chen's lone assault. Thus, as he saw Mu Chen charging toward him, the great Blood Demon King did not retreat. Instead, with a laugh, he stepped forward, his ghostly figure appearing directly in front of Mu Chen. His body trembled slightly before it suddenly expanded, taking the form of a massive giant. With a single arm, he struck down at Mu Chen with terrifying force. The palm swept down with a roar, causing the space to shatter inch by inch, revealing an incredibly terrifying force. Such powerful physical strength. The blood-red palm rapidly enlarged in Mu Chen's eyes. Feeling the force within it, Mu Chen's eyes narrowed. In the next moment, a burst of crystal light erupted from his pupils. Vast spiritual energy, like a flood, surged through his body. Roar! Mu Chen clenched his fist tightly and punched out. At that instant, the sound of a dragon's roar seemed to echo. A true dragon spirit crawled up his arm, its claws aligning with his fingers. With a punch, the force was just as earth-shattering. Boom! The punch collided heavily with the palm, and the space around them exploded violently, turning into a black hole-like shape. Both Mu Chen and the Great Blood Demon King were slightly shaken and then forced backward. Not bad, kid. Your physical strength is that strong. A trace of surprise crossed the Great Blood Demon King's face. Mu Chen's physical strength had clearly exceeded his expectations. However, he wasn't afraid. From their earlier clash, he had sensed that he had a slight advantage. The Great Blood Demon King sneered, not giving Mu Chen a moment to recover. His figure surged forward again, and in the next moment, a storm of attacks rained down upon Mu Chen. He planned to convert the advantages of Mu Chen's clones and Supreme Dharmakaya being tied up into a decisive victory. Boom boom. Facing the torrential barrage from the Great Blood Demon King, Mu Chen's expression grew serious. The crystal light surged around his body as the true dragon spirit coiled around him, pushing his spiritual energy and physical strength to their limits. He could feel that the Great Blood Demon King's strength was far beyond that of the other Blood Demon Kings, making him one of the strongest beings Mu Chen had faced, second only to the Heavenly Supreme. This was indeed a very tricky opponent. In the distance, Bai Susu and many of the native inhabitants watched with fear as the three battle zones erupted in terrifying clashes. Every battle zone unleashed a level of combat that sent shivers down their spines. If they were even slightly involved, they would be obliterated in an instant. Your Majesty, it seems that the Celestial Lord is being suppressed by the Great Blood Demon King. Some of the top native inhabitants gathered around Bai Susu, looking at the battle zone where Mu Chen was. In that zone, it was clear that the Great Blood Demon King had the upper hand, his torrential attacks overwhelming Mu Chen. Bai Susu, though her jade-like hand was clenched tightly, maintained a calm expression. Having followed Mu Chen for some time, she knew he had a very powerful trump card, but it hadn't been used yet, clearly waiting for the right moment. Battles of this level were a game of patience, seeing who would reveal a flaw first. Boom. As the battle between Mu Chen and the Great Blood Demon King grew more intense, the latter's advantage became more evident. From within Blood Demon Mountain, countless warriors from the Blood Fiend clan erupted in cheers and howls of excitement. Boom. In the sky, Mu Chen and the Great Blood Demon King collided once more, dazzling spiritual energy and blood light filling the heavens. However, at that very moment, a wicked grin appeared on the Great Blood Demon King's face. His neck suddenly jerked, and his head stretched forward like a snake. His fangs grew, and with a snap, he bit down toward Mu Chen's neck. At the last moment, Mu Chen slightly turned his head, and the fangs sank into his shoulder instead, blood immediately spraying out. Watch as I drain every drop of your blood. The Great Blood Demon King sneered, about to invoke a great spell to drain Mu Chen's essence. However, at that moment, Mu Chen's face revealed a cold smile. He shook his sleeve, and a crystal pagoda shot out, rapidly expanding as it crashed down to cover them. He knew that with his current abilities, to truly determine the outcome, he had to rely on the eightfold pagoda. But the Great Blood Demon King's speed was ghostly, his body blending with the void, faster than him. If he directly summoned the pagoda, it might not trap him in time. The crystal pagoda roared down, and the great blood demon king was taken aback. He instinctively sensed a great unease, but immediately tried to retract his fangs. However, Mu Chen's muscles contracted like steel, trapping the fangs immovably. Boom. In that split second of hesitation, the crystal pagoda crashed down, enveloping both of their figures and silently hovering in the air. Inside the pagoda, Mu Chen withdrew, disregarding the blood streaming down his shoulder. He simply shot a faint smile at the great blood demon king, whose gloomy face was scanning the surroundings. With a flick of his sleeve, a torrent of supreme spiritual liquid surged forth. The vast wave of spiritual energy spread throughout the pagoda. This time, Mu Chen used a full 80 million of the supreme spiritual liquid. He knew how formidable the great blood demon king was. Since he was making a move, there would be no holding back. He would go all out and aim to end it in one strike. The torrent roared as Mu Chen's hands swiftly formed seals. On the tower walls, 8 vicious, ancient demon statues slowly materialized, with half of their bodies stretching out from the surface. Whoosh! The statues opened their massive jaws and devoured the entire flow of supreme spiritual liquid in one gulp. Pagoda's demon extermination light. Cold light gleamed in Mu Chen's eyes as he wasted no time activating a deadly move from the eightfold pagoda. The 8 ancient demon statues all extended their demonic fingers, locking onto the great blood demon king. In the next instant, 8 dark beams shot forth with overwhelming force. When the beams hit, the great blood demon king's face changed drastically. His eyes filled with terror, realizing the immense threat of Mu Chen's strike. Even he, who was normally fearless, could sense the intense danger of death closing in on him. Damn it, this guy actually has such a move. The great blood demon king cursed, then quickly formed hand seals. Enormous blood-red light erupted around him, transforming into a blood-colored sphere that enveloped his body for protection. Sizzle! Sizzle! The 8 dark beams crashed into the blood sphere, instantly piercing through it and tearing through the great blood demon king's body. Ah! A shrill scream echoed as the great blood demon king's body exploded, transforming into a sea of blood. The power of the eightfold pagoda truly lived up to its reputation as one of the 36 supreme divine abilities. Mu Chen watched the scene with a cold expression. He waved his sleeve, and crystal-clear spiritual energy descended, sealing the vast sea of blood. It eventually coalesced into a crystal orb in his hands. He looked down at the orb, his brows furrowing. Inside the crystal ball, the face of the great blood demon king grinned cruelly at him before gradually dissipating and vanishing. The aura's fading? This guy really is troublesome. Mu Chen fell silent for a moment. Then, with a blank expression, crushed the crystal orb in his hand. He knew that the great blood demon king hadn't been completely eradicated, but had instead escaped in some peculiar way. However, even if he had escaped, his body had undoubtedly been destroyed. No matter how he fled, he would have been heavily injured, his combat strength severely diminished. He was no longer a serious threat. Whatever he's planning, I'll take care of the other 2 blood demon kings first. Mu Chen's figure flickered as he stepped out of the pagoda. Once he dealt with the other 2 blood demon kings, he would be able to use his technique to clear the great blood demon king with ease. Meanwhile, deep within the blood demon mountain, amid the blood-soaked abyss, blood gathered and took the shape of a figure. The pale-faced figure was none other than the great blood demon king, who had been seemingly annihilated by Mu Chen earlier. Now, his body seemed somewhat ethereal, clearly showing signs of severe injury. His face darkened as he glanced toward the direction outside the mountain, gritting his teeth. That damned bastard. How could he have such terrifying abilities? The power of the 8 demon statues in the pagoda earlier had shaken him to the core. If he hadn't left part of his flesh behind in the blood abyss, he would have likely been trapped there. Even so, he was severely weakened now, his combat power drastically reduced. Having temporarily escaped the battlefield, he knew Mu Chen would soon turn his attention to the other 2 blood demon kings. It wouldn't be long before they were defeated. At this point, they no longer held the advantage. The great blood demon king's eyes darkened, and his gaze shifted to the blood egg floating in the abyss. The evil light patterns on the egg flickered, as if the embryo inside was breathing. That kid is extremely peculiar. If I want to eliminate him today, I'll have to hasten the birth of our clan's ruler. The great blood demon king took a deep breath, then clenched his teeth and let out a high-pitched screech. As his sharp screech echoed, numerous powerful members of the Blood Fiend clan emerged from the surrounding blood abyss. Then, as if under some kind of control, they leaped directly from the abyss's edge with a splash, falling into the blood abyss below. The moment their bodies made contact with the blood-filled waters, they dissolved into boiling hot blood, merging with the abyss. Splash! Splash! In an instant, the blood abyss was splashing with blood as countless Blood Fiend clan members fell one after another. With more and more powerful Blood Fiend clan members transforming into blood and merging into the abyss, the sinister blood egg above began to glow brighter. At one point, faint cracks seemed to appear on its surface, silently emerging. Outside Blood Demon Mountain, under the gaze of countless eyes, the enormous crystal pagoda, suspended in the sky, suddenly shook and swiftly shrank. A beam of light shot out, appearing in everyone's view. It's the Celestial Lord. As Bai Susu and the other native inhabitants looked at the figure that had appeared, they couldn't help but cry out in excitement. Joy and ecstasy filled everyone's face. They clearly hadn't expected that the outcome between Mu Chun and the Great Blood Demon King would be decided so quickly. But compared to their ecstatic reaction, inside Blood Demon Mountain, there was an eerie silence. Countless Blood Fiend clan members looked horrified, unable to believe what they were seeing. They never thought that the most powerful of their clan, the Great Blood Demon King, would be defeated by Mu Chun. However, despite the overwhelming shock, Mu Chun paid it no mind. His gaze first shifted towards the depths of Blood Demon Mountain. At this moment, he could no longer sense the presence of the Great Blood Demon King. Clearly, the latter had hidden himself. Seeing this, Mu Chun didn't feel overly joyful. Instead, a slight sense of unease crept up on him. No matter what, I need to deal with the other two Blood Demon Kings first. Mu Chun's eyes gleamed as he hesitated not. He immediately rushed toward another battlefield. Regardless of whether the Great Blood Demon King had a backup plan, he had to eliminate the other two Blood Demon Kings first. Only then could he face whatever came next from the Great Blood Demon King with everything he had. Mu Chun surged into the battle, where the ocean of battle raged. Waves of combat intent howled through the heavens, trapping one of the Blood Demon Kings in place, unable to break free. As Mu Chun's figure appeared above the ocean of combat looking down upon the trapped Blood Demon King, the latter's face changed drastically. For Mu Chun to appear here, it meant that the Great Blood Demon King had already been defeated. How is this possible? The Blood Demon King exclaimed in disbelief. The Great Blood Demon King's strength was greater than theirs. How could he lose to someone who was merely at the perfect Earth Supreme level? But no matter how shocked he was, Mu Chun's expression remained indifferent as he waved his hand. The immortal golden body appeared behind him, and he charged directly into the battlefield. The immortal divine runes howled out. He didn't use the eightfold pagoda, this time because it consumed too much supreme spiritual liquid. With the combined strength of himself and the black-robed Mu Chun, it was enough to suppress this Blood Demon King. Boom, boom. And indeed, that was exactly what happened. With Mu Chun's main body joining the fray, the Blood Demon King, who had previously only managed to maintain a stalemate, began to fall apart. Finally, when he was struck by a wave of combat intent, a purple-gold giant spear pierced through his chest from behind. The purple-gold radiance surged, and the Blood Demon King's body exploded, all his vitality erased. After swiftly taking care of this Blood Demon King, Mu Chun and the black-robed Mu Chun did not stop. Like lightning, they shot toward the final battlefield, where the white-robed Mu Chun was engaged in a fierce battle with the last Blood Demon King. However, when this Blood Demon King saw Mu Chun and the black-robed Mu Chun approaching, his face turned pale. At this moment, he knew his doom was sealed. He gritted his teeth, and his body suddenly expanded, before he exploded with a thunderous roar. Boom! A massive sound echoed through the heavens, like a blood-red giant sun rising. Violent torrents of blood surged, as though attempting to drown the entire world. However, before this blood-red torrent could spread, Chen flicked his sleeve, and the pagoda shot out, radiating endless crystal light. Wherever the light passed, the blood-red torrent quickly dimmed, finally transforming into blood-red crystals, which then rained down from the sky. As the sky was filled with falling blood-red crystals, a sudden flash of blood-red light shot out, heading straight for Blood Demon Mountain. Not so fast, but just as it was about to be shot, Chen's figure appeared in front of it. With a cold sneer, he summoned the crystal light, which formed a protective shield and caught the blood crystal in his hand. Inside the blood crystal, the terrified face of the Blood Demon King was revealed. Seeing this, Chen showed no mercy. With a tight grip, he was about to crush and destroy it. "You should not be so smug. When my emperor emerges, you will all die." Realizing escape was impossible, the Blood Demon King let out a sharp, ear-piercing laugh, filled with malice as he was on the verge of being destroyed. Chen crushed the blood crystal and coldly scattered its remains. With that, the battle came to an end, and the three Blood Demon Kings had all fallen at Chen's hands. At the rear, countless native inhabitants let out deafening cheers. Some were so overwhelmed with emotion that they fell to their knees, crying out in sorrow. After all, for years, the Blood Fiend clan's Blood Demon Kings had loomed over the native inhabitants like demon gods. No matter how much they resisted or struggled, they were as powerless as ants. But now, the 6 Blood Demon Kings of the Blood Fiend clan had all been slain by the Celestial Lord. It seemed that the living beings of their world had regained a glimmer of hope. As the native inhabitants continued to kneel and bow towards Chen's direction, Baisusu noticed that Chen did not appear to be filled with joy at his victory. She immediately flew over and softly asked, "My lord, is something wrong?" The great Blood Demon King did not die. He escaped. Chen gazed at the towering Blood Demon Mountain, his eyes gleaming with spirit light as he continually probed, trying to find any trace of the great Blood Demon King. Baisusu was startled by his words, then softly said, "The Blood Demon Mountain is now the Blood Fiend clan's stronghold. If the great Blood Demon King escaped, it must be into there." Chen nodded. His eyes glinted with cold light as he stared at the Blood Demon Mountain. With a flick of his sleeve, the pagoda shot out and rapidly expanded in the wind, quickly growing to a size of over 100,000 feet, floating above the Blood Demon Mountain. This spectacle left countless native inhabitants in stunned silence, while the Blood Fiend clan's forces within the Blood Demon Mountain panicked and began to flee in chaos. Chen and his 2 avatars simultaneously formed hand seals, channeling immense spiritual energy into the pagoda. Immediately, the crystal light poured down, enveloping the entire Blood Demon Mountain. As the crystal light cascaded, any Blood Fiend clan members it touched rapidly shrank, eventually turning into small crystal shards the size of a palm. The sound of crystals hitting the ground rang out, creating an eerie, otherworldly atmosphere throughout the Blood Demon Mountain. Deep within the Blood Demon Mountain, in the Blood Abyss, the great Blood Demon King raised his head to look at the massive floating crystal pagoda. His expression changed slightly. He could feel the crystal light sweeping across the Blood Demon Mountain, and it wouldn't be long before it reached this place. "I must hurry." The great Blood Demon King looked at the blood egg in the Blood Abyss. Cracks were spreading across its surface, and within, a terrifying fluctuation was beginning to brew. Clenching his teeth, he howled once again. Around the Blood Abyss, countless Blood Fiend clan warriors began to speed up, madly jumping into the Blood Abyss to feed power into the blood egg. Outside the Blood Demon Mountain, Chen observed the chaos unfolding within. Yet even with such turmoil, there was still no sign of the great Blood Demon King. Chen furrowed his brows. Suddenly, his pupils constricted, as he faintly sensed a disturbing fluctuation deep within the Blood Demon Mountain, one that even made his heart race. Boom! This discovery made Chen's expression turn serious. He quickly formed a hand seal. From the crystal pagoda high in the sky, a massive crystal light pillar shot down like a roaring dragon, targeting the source of the fluctuation. Though he didn't know what it was, Chen knew that, out of caution, he had to destroy it. Boom! The crystal light pillar crashed down. Deep within the blood abyss, the great blood demon king sensed it. He looked up at the massive light pillar descending like a giant dragon, his face changing. He immediately swung both hands. With a loud crashing sound, endless blood surged from the blood abyss, forming a massive blood shield, like an overturned giant bowl, covering the entire blood abyss. Boom! The crystal light pillars crashed violently against the blood barrier, causing ripples to spread rapidly across its surface. However, the blood barrier, forged from the power of the blood abyss, held firm, withstanding the impact without shattering. I found it. Outside Blood Demon Mountain, Chen's gaze sharpened. Without hesitation, he activated the pagoda, and countless crystal light pillars began raining down like thunder, fiercely bombarding the depths of the mountain. Boom! Above the blood abyss, a savage storm raged, and the great blood demon king watched as the blood barrier, weakened by the barrage of crystal light pillars, began to crack. His expression darkened further. He hadn't expected Chen to act so decisively, launching a destructive offensive without hesitation, determined to obliterate all unknown factors. The great blood demon king turned his gaze to the blood egg. Despite the cracks covering its surface, it still refused to break open. It seemed as though something vital was missing. His expression changed, and with a malicious glare, he looked toward the outside of Blood Demon Mountain, his teeth clenched. "Little pest, since you're forcing my Blood Fiend clan, I'll make you the first sacrificial offering for the birth of our clan's emperor." With those words, he no longer hesitated. His body trembled, and then exploded into a flood of blood, surging toward the blood egg. At the same time, Chen seemed to sense something. His eyes narrowed as a crystal light pillar shattered the blood barrier and shot through space at an incredible speed, slamming into the blood-colored flood created by the great blood demon king. Boom! A violent explosion erupted, and the blood abyss was torn apart, crumbling in the aftermath. As the blood abyss collapsed, a blood egg shot into the sky, silently hovering atop Blood Demon Mountain. Chen's gaze locked onto the ominous blood egg, his pupils contracting. The dangerous aura emanating from it sent a chill down his spine, causing every hair on his body to stand on end. Without a second thought, he activated the pagoda once again. Waves of crystal floods, like massive dragons, descended, crashing down toward the blood egg. The sky was filled with the destructive power of the crystal floods, but just as they were about to strike the blood egg, its shell finally cracked. A pale hand emerged from within, gently clasping, causing the entire sky of crystal floods to shatter in an instant. The pale hand stretched from the blood egg, and with a simple grip, it crushed the crystal floods completely. The sheer power of it stunned the entire world into silence. Chen's face shifted slightly, his eyes narrowing sharply as he watched the shattered blood egg. As the shell broke apart, he could feel an unsettling ripple forming, one that sent a shiver down his spine. Boom! Just then, a massive blood-red light pillar shot into the sky from the broken egg, slamming into the floating crystal pagoda above. The two collided with a deafening crash, sending the pagoda flying. Chen's expression darkened as he waved his sleeve, causing the crystal pagoda to retreat back into his robe. His eyes fixed intently on the blood egg, a flicker of wariness crossing his face. Crack! Under his watchful gaze, the blood egg continued to shatter rapidly. The pale hand reached out, peeling away the remaining shell, and finally, to the astonishment of everyone, a naked youth emerged from the egg. The youth was tall and slender, with blood-red eyes that seemed to swirl with an ocean of blood. His long white hair billowed in the wind, and his appearance was strikingly handsome. But the aura of destruction and brutality emanating from him caused the entire Blood Demon Mountain to tremble beneath his feet. His beautiful face showed no hint of emotion. His blood-red eyes scanned the surroundings, indifferent and merciless. At the same time, countless blood-red winds howled around him, and an indescribable pressure spread across the area. Above, blood clouds gathered, eventually transforming into a blood-red storm that rained down, enveloping the world. The native inhabitants, watching the figure of the white-haired youth, trembled violently. The overwhelming pressure almost shattered their minds, and the quaking of their knees nearly forced them to kneel. Bai Susu's face turned ashen. Though she did not know the full extent of the white-haired youth's power, her intuition screamed that the person before her possessed unparalleled strength far beyond even the great blood demon king. She stood by Mu Chen's side, her delicate body trembling slightly. If not for her firm will, she would have already succumbed to her fear and fled in the opposite direction. As her fear reached its peak, Mu Chen gently patted her soft, fragrant shoulder, and the glow of spiritual energy enveloped her, shielding her from the oppressive force. "My lord." Bai Susu looked up at Mu Chen in gratitude, but soon noticed the rare seriousness on his face. His eyes, locked onto the white-haired youth, were filled with deep caution. "I didn't expect that among the Blood Fiend clan, a demon emperor would be born," Mu Chen said with a grim expression. This was his greatest worry for the journey, and now it had come true. A demon emperor had emerged within the Blood Fiend clan, someone on par with a heavenly supreme. Facing such an existence, even Mu Chen felt the threat of danger. He knew exactly how powerful a demon emperor was. Even though he had easily dealt with the great blood demon king earlier, he wouldn't dare say he stood a chance against a true demon emperor. Things are getting troublesome today. At the peak of Blood Demon Mountain, the white-haired youth, oblivious to his nakedness, merely moved his mouth. The blood-red shell beneath him turned into a streak of blood light, which he swallowed entirely. Afterward, his blood pupil gaze shifted toward Mu Chen's direction as he spoke indifferently. "I must thank you today. If not for you, my emergence might have been delayed for decades, or even centuries." Although he had just been born, he had absorbed the blood essence of many of his kin, and in the end, even the great blood demon king had sacrificed his blood essence to nurture him. Thus, he had gained some of the great blood demon king's memories. Mu Chen sighed. "I never thought that the Blood Fiend clan could give birth to a demon emperor." The white-haired youth, now the blood demon emperor of the Blood Fiend clan, nodded coldly. "Though you played a part in my emergence, today, you still must die." His voice was slightly childish and hoarse, but it carried no emotional fluctuation, only endless indifference. Mu Chen, upon hearing this, smiled dismissively. From the moment he saw the Blood Demon Emperor's arrival, he knew this was a matter of life and death. He never thought the situation could end peacefully. "Then I suppose I must experience the power of the Blood Demon Emperor firsthand." Although the opponent was indeed a true Demon Emperor, Mu Chen clearly wasn't going to surrender easily. How things would turn out, only a real battle would reveal. "You possess formidable blood essence, and though I could annihilate you, if you surrender to me, I can turn you into a blood thrall, allowing you to survive." The Blood Demon Emperor stared at Mu Chen and suddenly said. Mu Chen smiled, and, with a burst of purple gold light, his immortal golden body appeared. His true form stood atop the immortal golden body, while his black and white avatar stood on its shoulders. The three figures meditated, and an endless flow of spiritual energy surged into the immortal golden body. In an instant, a vast golden radiance erupted from it, resembling a purple gold sun. Mu Chen's actions were a clear response to the Blood Demon Emperor. A mantis trying to stop a cart, an ant shaking a tree. The Blood Demon Emperor watched this scene indifferently. Mu Chen, however, no longer wasted words. The three figures simultaneously formed seals, and on the surface of the immortal golden body, purple gold divine runes began to materialize. They detached from the body and floated around like massive dragons. In just a few breaths, the number of immortal divine runes had reached an astonishing 200. At this moment, Mu Chen had no intention of testing the waters. With the combined power of his two avatars, he immediately activated the immortal divine runes to their fullest extent. The 200 immortal divine runes coiled around, releasing purple gold light that caused the void to tremble. With such power, even the great blood demon king from before would likely have been severely wounded in an instant. Immortal divine runes, 1,000 transformations, immortal divine bell. With Mu Chen's roar, the 200 immortal divine runes shot into the sky. In the next moment, they transformed into a massive purple gold bell that descended, shattering the void and trapping the Blood Demon Emperor within. As the golden bell fell, Mu Chen waved his sleeve, and dozens more immortal divine runes formed into a giant golden pillar that roared through the air and crashed into the bell. Clang. At the moment of impact, the world trembled. Blood Demon Mountain began to collapse, and the enormous shockwave from the sound wave spread, tearing apart the sky. Within 100 miles of the Golden Bell, all the boulders turned to dust, and the ground itself crumbled in layers. This scene left countless people horrified and speechless. The external sound waves alone were so terrifying. One couldn't help but wonder what kind of devastating impact would be unleashed from within that Golden Bell. With this move, Chen had already displayed a truly terrifying method. Susu couldn't help but show a smile of approval. She looked at Chen, but saw that his expression remained grave, with no sign of ease despite deploying such a lethal technique. He knew that while this kind of technique would be unstoppable against those below the Heavenly Supreme level, it wouldn't necessarily deal much damage to a Demon Emperor. The situation wasn't so optimistic. Just as these thoughts flashed through Chen's mind, the Golden Bell suddenly began to tremble violently. Everyone then saw a deep palm print appear on its surface. Boom. The massive Golden Bell shattered into pieces under that palm strike. The Blood Demon King's figure emerged, and it was clear that, apart from some red marks on his body, he was completely unharmed. Even the red marks quickly faded away at this moment. Hiss! Susu and the others couldn't help but gasp in shock. They never expected the Blood Demon Emperor to be this terrifying. That level of attack seemed like nothing more than an itch to him. The thought of how overwhelmingly powerful the Blood Demon Emperor was made even by Susu, who had full confidence in Chen, feel a trace of dread and worry in her heart. Truly worthy of being a Demon Emperor. Chen had expected this, but seeing the Blood Demon Emperor unscathed still made him involuntarily sigh. The difference between the Blood Demon King and the Blood Demon Emperor was just one character, but in reality, the disparity was as vast as the difference between heaven and earth. At the mountaintop, the Blood Demon Emperor, with his blood-red pupils, coldly stared at Chen. He then extended a finger towards him from a distance. At his fingertip, a blood-red light suddenly appeared. A drop of crimson blood floated from his fingertip, transforming into a round blood pearl. It shimmered slightly, pierced through the void, and shot straight toward Chen. Chen's expression turned serious as he saw this. He didn't dare underestimate it. Taking a deep breath, the immortal golden body erupted in a torrent of purple golden light, which intertwined in front of him, forming a towering mountain of purple gold. Boom! The blood drop rushed toward him. Without dodging or avoiding, it slammed directly into the mountain made of purple gold. Rumble! In that instant, it was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. The seemingly indestructible purple golden mountain shattered upon contact, and an indescribable force swept across the area. Boom! The sky collapsed, the ground trembled. The purple golden light dissipated, and Chen's massive immortal golden body, as if struck by a heavy blow, was violently pushed back several thousand miles. The enormous legs left deep, abyss-like marks on the earth. Susu and the many native inhabitants experts who saw this scene all trembled in their hearts. Since meeting Chen, this was the first time they had seen him fall into such a disadvantage. Clearly, the earlier clash had shown that the Blood Demon Emperor's power far surpassed Chen's. In the distance, the immortal golden body finally stabilized. Chen, standing atop it, looked with a serious expression at his own body. He could vaguely see several cracks appearing there. With just one strike, the immortal golden body had been reduced to this by the Blood Demon Emperor. The power of the Demon Emperor was truly terrifying. Chen took a deep breath. A sharp light appeared in his black eyes. Although the Blood Demon Emperor was formidable, Chen had faced life and death and wasn't going to submit easily. Conquering him would not be an easy task. Today's battle will be a fight to the death, with no retreat.